Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our centennial celebration. We're so happy to have everyone here this evening. My name is Lisa Giuliano, and I am the president of the Hamilton Rotary Club. I'm going to run this a bit like our regular Rotary meeting, so I thought I'd start out by ringing the bell, but I didn't want to startle people who don't know what that means. Probably a good idea. So I'm going to ring the bell, and then I'm going to ask Reverend John Lewis to come up and lead us in prayer and pledge. When I ring the bell, if you're able, just stand.
Thank you, Lisa. Let us bow our heads in prayer. Gracious and loving God, on this our centennial celebration here in Hamilton, Ohio, we pray that your blessing would be upon us as we are continued and committed to be this Rotarian service organization to help those in this world. And may each of us in our daily lives come to know the joy of caring and sharing with others, not as fortunate as ourselves. And may our motto that includes service above self always be there before us. We thank you for the gift of Rotary and for the gift of each other. And may we be mindful, ever mindful, of those in need. Help us to provide food to the hungry, to heal the wounds of hatred with our love, to comfort those in sorrow, and bring peace to those living in areas of unrest throughout this world. For we pray in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Lewis. We're now going to enjoy a video history of our club's 100 years of service above self.
Chicago attorney Paul Harris established the Rotary Club in 1905, and 16 years later, Rotary was active on 6 continents. He said, "Whatever Rotary may mean to us, to the world it will be known by the results it achieves." Today, 1.2 million business, community, and professional leaders in 200 countries are working to enhance their communities, countries, and international understanding. The Rotary Club of Hamilton was founded in 1919. Its long commitment to programs for youth, humanitarian aid, and community enrichment has built a reservoir of goodwill in Hamilton and across Butler County. Hamilton Rotary's weekly gatherings for social and educational activities began immediately in 1919, and the club grew rapidly. By 1920, it had 51 members. At early gatherings, Hamilton Rotarians formed bonds by singing together. And in 1925, it sponsored the Middletown Rotary Club. The club also found new ways to serve youth. As early as 1921, Hamilton Rotarians contributed funds to assist children with disabilities. They sponsored clinics, annual Christmas dinners, and summer picnics. They partnered with the Middletown Club to sponsor a special camp at YMCA Camp Campbellgard. Hamilton joined with other Rotary clubs to form the Ohio Society for Crippled Children, which became the national organization now known as Easter Seals. In this spirit, Rotarians today support Rotary International's commitment to eradicate polio worldwide. It has immunized nearly 2 billion children. Hamilton Rotary helped to found the Oxford Rotary Club and celebrated a 50th anniversary in 1969. That year, Nathaniel Sherman, the City of Hamilton's Director of Human Relations, and Hamilton's NAACP president became the club's first African American member. In the late 20th century, Hamilton welcomed international guests, helped found Rotary clubs in Fairfield and Westchester, and celebrated a 75th anniversary. The original Rotary International was a men's organization. 5 years before the Hamilton Club was chartered, all wives of Rotarians were nicknamed Rotary Anns, when a spouse named Anne was introduced at the 1914 San Francisco Convention. For years, the Hamilton Club held an annual Ladies' Night dinner and program. After a club in California admitted women in 1978 and was removed from Rotary International, a lawsuit resulted in gender integration. In the 1980s, women joined Rotary across the nation, at times stirring debate about changing traditions. Linda Beer and Nancy Wiley became the Hamilton Club's first female inductees in 1988. Since then, women have been consistently active and innovative members. Mary Pat Essman became the first of the Hamilton Club's 7 women presidents in 2000, and Lisa Giuliano serves as president during this centennial year. In 1954, Hamilton Rotarians began an annual tradition of producing community theater that became popular as Rotary Revels. Now in its 7th decade, Rotary Presents enjoys the solid support of business and civic organizations. 4 days of live theater engage all Hamilton Rotarians. These popular productions feature actors, musicians, and theatrical support by community members. Rotary Presents was showcased by International Rotary in 2016. In its 100th year, the Hamilton Rotary Club remains a high-impact organization dedicated to serving youth and serving the community. We are grateful for a century of strong support and proud in 2019 to celebrate 100 years of service above self.
We need to give some credit to Steve Caldwell from TV Hamilton and Jeff Archibald from the Hamilton Vision Commission for donating over 50 hours of their time to produce this video for us. So please join me in showing appreciation to them. The very talented Rotarian Sean Higgins for video narration. Rotarians Kurt Ellison and Kim Munifo for script and content. And one of our newer Rotarians, Boyce Swift, for planning assistance. Thank you to all of you. I hope you enjoyed this evening and the musical entertainment that was coordinated by Kelly Mackenzie Thurley, voice faculty, School of the Arts at Northern Kentucky University. Many thanks to Kelly and our musicians, who I'd like to let you know who those folks were. David Thornton was on guitar and vocals in the foyer, so please, a round of applause for David. And in the ballroom, we had Era Samuels on vocals, David Michael on vocals, Andrew Haug on piano, and also the 3 of them, along with Kelly, are going to come to the stage now. Music was an important part of our club's early history, and singing at Rotary meetings was part of our weekly program, as you saw in the video. These folks are going to lead us in a little bit of song. We're going to sing the 1925 tune, Rotary, My Rotary. Thank you.
Thy praises high I love to sing.
for our musicians. Thank you very much. And now we turn to a time to acknowledge many of our distinguished guests that are with us this evening. We have folks who have played very important roles in our community in the past and in the present, and they've supported us over the years and are here to celebrate with us. Please welcome the following elected officials. State Representative Sarah Carruthers. Mayor Pat Mueller. Judge Keith Spaeth. Rotarian and Judge Margot Halcomb. Please welcome our distinguished Rotary District guests. Our District Governor, Sigrid Solomon. And Assistant District Governor, Art Hupp. I'd like to introduce any of our current club officers and board members that are here. So I'm going to ask if you're here when I read your name. Please stand and remain standing, and then we will recognize you all together. Jeff Boyle, President-elect. Wally Zancan, Vice President. Rob Weigel, Secretary. Karen Baker, Treasurer. Paul Golias, Past President. Carla Fear, Club Administrator. Mark Belisario, Chuck Inwood, Karen Underwood Kramer, Sean Higgins, Randy Allman, Brian Carwish, Adam Markham, Mark Minery, and Lisa Sandlin. Thank you for your leadership for us, club. One of our exhibits noted the names of all the past presidents who have served our club. Please stand if you have served as a Hamilton Rotary Club president so we can recognize you. Thank you. Our club currently has approximately 105 members, and among those, we have Rotarians with many years of service. 3 Rotarians have been members for over 50 years. Please stand when I read your name so we can recognize you and your years of service. George Johnson for 54 years of service. All right, George. Joe Brandeber for 51 years of service. Bill Hartford for 51 years of service. We have a group of Rotarians who have been members for 25 years or more, so 1994 or before. Please stand when I read your name and remain standing so we can recognize you all together. Mag Baker, Melvin Baker, Rick Bethart, Larry Bowling, Mary Butterfield, Gil Kabakungan, John Clements, Mark Cohen, Matt Crehan, Bart Drake, Mary Pat Essman, Woody Fitton, Stephen Gross, Tim Hoskins, Doug Johnson, Tom Nye, Ron Smith, Glenn Stitzinger, Richard Underwood, Bob Weigel, Nancy Wiley, and Craig Wilkes. Thank you for your service. We dedicated one of our history exhibits to women in Rotary. I have to admit, it was one of probably the most fun / controversial one that we worked on, right, Kim? But anyway, women were first inducted into Rotary clubs in 1987, and the first 2 women joined our club in 1988, and I'd like to recognize them by name and presence, Nancy Wiley and Linda Beer. Let's also recognize the first woman president of the Hamilton Rotary Club, Mary Pat Essman. In addition to philanthropic contributions to our community, many of our members have contributed to the Rotary International Foundation. In 1917, Rotary International President Arch Clump proposed setting up this endowment for the purpose of doing good in the world. One of our history exhibits highlights the Paul Harris Fellows, who give $1,000 gifts to the Rotary International Foundation. Since this recognition was established in 1957, 84 Hamilton Rotarians have earned designation as Paul Harris Fellows, with many of them earning it multiple times. One of our club members was recognized this past year for receiving a Paul Harris Fellow Award 10 times. Please join me in thanking Rick Bethart for his generosity and philanthropic achievement. Rick, I know you're here somewhere. There he is. All right, now I would like to ask Mayor Pat Muller to come up for a special presentation from the City of Hamilton.
Good evening. What a great celebration of a great organization at a great location. And that all does definitely fit. Council is very proud to give this proclamation to Rotary on this anniversary. I'm going to say I'm also going to be joined by Ann Antonin. You can stay where you're seated, but you're a former mayor, so you're kind of with us up here. Mayor Tom Nye, he's with us as well. I don't want him to come up here, though. I don't want Tom up here. He's got a lot of bad jokes, and he gave himself a proclamation once, so we're not going to let that happen. And that's related to Rotary, too, if I'm not mistaken. When I think of Rotary, I think of like an equation. Rotary equals service to others by community leaders. And this is an incredible gathering of community leaders. And a lot of the service is to youth, whether it be the battle against polio, whether it be books to young people, exchange students, HYPE program. I know Pastor Shack's up there. But, so Rotary to me is service to others by community leaders. And one of the best representatives of Rotary is fellow Councilmember Tim Knabb, who so ably represents your organization at so many places. Proclamation. Office of the Mayor, proclamation. Whereas Hamilton City Council and City Administration would like to recognize the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Club of Hamilton, Ohio. Whereas the Rotary Club was first established in 1905 by Chicago attorney Paul Harris, and within 16 years was active on 6 continents. And whereas Rotary International unites 1.2 million business, community, and professional leaders in 200 countries to promote humanitarian service, high ethical standards, and world peace. Its Polio Plus program has immunized nearly 200 billion children worldwide in an effort to eradicate polio. And whereas the Rotary Club of Hamilton, Ohio was founded in 1919 and has a consistent and visible public record of strong commitment to international and local programs for youth, grants to nonprofit organizations, humanitarian aid, and community enrichment projects. And whereas the Rotary Club of Hamilton has built a treasured reservoir of authentic goodwill in the city of Hamilton and across Butler County, where it has also helped establish Rotary clubs in Middletown, Oxford, Fairfield, and Westchester, Ohio. And whereas in 2019, the Rotary Club of Hamilton marks 100 years of service above self, a full century of accomplishments answering the call of founder Paul Harris to be known by the results it achieves. Therefore, I, Pat Muller, and council members, Vice Mayor Michael Ryan, Timothy F. Knabb, Robert M. Brown, Carla J. Fear, Matthew Von Stein, and Kathleen Klink, do hereby recognize the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Club of Hamilton, Ohio, for outstanding civic and philanthropic enterprise on the occasion of its 2019 centennial celebration, acknowledged by all of us on council. Lisa, would you please accept this on behalf of the Rotary Club? And we thank you so much for what you do to our city, because it is a lot. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you coming this evening. I'd now like to invite Flora Butler up. Flora is going to become a member of Rotary Club here in September, and she is the clerk for the board of the Butler County Board of Commissioners, and we were surprised with a proclamation from the county commissioners, and she's going to read that for us this evening. Thank you, Flora.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Club of Hamilton, Ohio. The Rotary Club of Hamilton, Ohio brings together 130 of Hamilton's businesses, professional, and community leaders to listen and learn about the key issues affecting our community. These members are taking action to enhance health, empower youth, promote peace, and improve Hamilton. In 1905, Rotary International started in Chicago, Illinois. Now they are the oldest service organization in the world, with over 35,000 clubs who work together to promote peace, fight disease, provide clean water, sanitation, and hygiene, save mothers and children, support education, and grow local economy. Hamilton Rotary Club members have been solving real problems through their commitment, vision, and passion to advance our area. Their members are friends, leaders, and problem solvers who unite people and take action to create lasting change in Butler County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that my bosses, Donald L. Dixon, T.C. Rogers, and Cindy Carpenter, Commissioners of Butler County, Ohio, do hereby congratulate the Rotary Club of Hamilton, Ohio on its 100th anniversary, proclaimed this 29th day of August in 2019.
Thank you, Flora. One more proclamation, another surprise. From the State of Ohio, Office of the Auditor, Keith Faber, in recognition and appreciation of Rotary Club of Hamilton Centennial Celebration. Whereas 2019 marks the Rotary Club of Hamilton Centennial Year, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the club on this special milestone as they have maintained the club's mission for 100 years. And whereas Rotary Club of Hamilton continuously served Hamilton, Ohio by supporting significant community projects through funding and manpower. And whereas Rotary Club of Hamilton continue on the youth education and Rotary International projects within the community and beyond over the past century. Therefore, I recognize Rotary Club of Hamilton and their community contributions as they celebrate this auspicious occasion. Keith Faber, Auditor of the State of Ohio, on this day, the 29th of August, 2019. This was dropped off today, so very much appreciated. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to our keynote speaker for this evening, Sigrid Solomon. Sigrid was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Industrial and Labor Relations from Cornell University and a Master's in Education from East Carolina University. She is currently working on her doctorate at Ashland University. Sigrid has worked in higher education since 1993 at various colleges and universities. For the past 12 years, she has served as Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Title IX Coordinator for Wilmington College. Inspired by her experience as a group study exchange participant in the fall of 1998, she began her Rotary journey in 2000 in Abingdon, Virginia, and joined the Wilmington Morning Club in 2007. She served as Wilmington's club president in 2011-2012 and has served in a variety of leadership roles throughout her club membership. Sigrid has served our Rotary District 6670 as Assistant Governor 2013 to 2016, District Trainer 2016 to 2019, and now our District Governor. She is a Paul Harris Fellow and was recognized in 2016 as one of the outstanding women of Clinton County. Please join me in welcoming Sigrid Solomon.
Thank you. Good evening. All right. I'm a very interactive person, so I like the call and response, so you need to talk to me this evening. All right? Okay. So first, before I get started, I wanted to say that I am indeed excited to be here before you this evening. But before I start, I would like for us to just pause for a moment of silence, because on my way here, I received a phone call from a fellow Rotarian that one of our very own just passed away. He was a past district governor Bob Hadley. He was district governor from 1993 to 1994. He was also a polio survivor and very long time Rotarian. So if we would just pause for a moment for him. Thank you so much. I would have paused a little bit longer because Wilmington College is a Quaker school, so they do believe in silence. So they tell me that silence is just enough to make Baptists and everybody else feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I know I was feeling uncomfortable. I don't know about you. All right. So as you can tell, I do have a sense of humor as well. So I will start off by telling you a little bit of story. And so you're probably thinking, now, how in the world did she get that name, Sigrid? Because I was expecting a Norwegian woman, right? And what did you get? So part of this group study exchange, we had an opportunity. We were an all-female team in the late 90s going to East Anglia, England. And it was a wonderful opportunity. But lo and behold, a lot of the people that were receiving us to speak to their club were not aware that we were all-female team. And so they thought, okay, well, there's a man in the midst. And guess who they thought the man was? All right. So with the name Sigrid, it's a unisex name. So there are men who are named Sigrid. And then they thought, well, maybe he's Jewish with the last name Solomon. And then, of course, I showed up, and there you go. There's history. So congratulations, Hamilton Club, for 100 years. Let's give you a hand clap for that. So in order to chart our path forward, we need to be cognizant of our past. Hence the subtitle, which we had the video to describe it, Acknowledge History, Engage in the Present, and Leave a Legacy. So allow me, if you will, to take a trip down memory lane. So Rotary International began in Chicago in 1905, and the Hamilton Club emerged in 1919. The premise of the organization was one of friendship and networking opportunity. Along with Rotary clubs across Ohio, the Hamilton Rotary Club raised money in the early years, as you just heard, to support children with disabilities in the community. They had a crippled children's committee in the 1920s and 1930s that provided funds for the medical clinics, holiday parties, summer camps, and other experiences. Rotary clubs petitioned the state of Ohio for funding, and the legislation, which held to the Ohio Crippled Children's Society, which eventually became what? You are so attentive. That's awesome. You all get an A for that. So examples like this provides evidence that the members of this club had lots of foresight and were concerned about inclusion of children with disabilities very early on. So, okay, that was a short glimpse of the past, but now what? So how are you engaged in the present? What are you doing in the way of leadership and service as it pertains to the effort of furthering the mission of Rotary in your local community and in the world? Well, let me tell you, Hamilton Rotary Club, you are creating an atmosphere where new and old friends have an opportunity to intentionally engage with one another professionally. You've also cultivated leadership development experiences in addition to lifelong moments for members to include, but are not limited to, all of the prestigious speakers that you have present. Currently, your club answers the call to be active and engaged in your community. And you're known as the group to facilitate ideas and forward momentum as it relates to service and civic engagement, or having a seat at the table to some very important community decisions. Most of all, you have created synergy around joining leaders, exchanging ideas, and taking action, all while infusing some fun in the process. So many of you have heard in my introduction that I am in education and higher education, and so there are two writers that talk about leadership. Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner have consistently emphasized that leadership is something that is learned. They discovered 5 practices of exemplary leadership, espousing that when leaders are at their personal best, that these 5 things are at the height. And so you might think, well, what are they? The first is that they model the way. They inspire a shared vision. They challenge the process. They enable others to act. And last but not least, they encourage the heart. So you might think, that sounds very much like Rotarians, doesn't it? Why, yes, it does. So as Rotarians, as leaders, we need to model the way, set the example, set a standard of excellence for others to follow in our community, as well as our club. You need to inspire a shared vision, enthusiastically enlist others to support you in your vision or your plan. I understand that you have been doing that quite frequently this year and are moving forward. Challenge the process. As leaders, there are times when you have to take risk. And as Rotarians, we tend to challenge the status quo quite often. Enable others to act. As leaders, many hours we put into establishing a rapport, building bridges with others, while empowering them to feel confident. And then the final one about encouraging the heart. On a daily basis, it's important to recognize the accomplishments of others and make them feel 10 feet tall. Here's a quote of, "Speaking the truth as a leader can be received with open arms or can be fraught with anger. What are you willing to stand for?" So allow me to share this quote by Warren Bennis that seems to sum that up. "The point is not to become a leader. The point is to become yourself and to use yourself completely, all your gifts, skills, energies, to make your vision manifest. You must withhold nothing. You must, in sum, become the person you started out to be and enjoy the process of becoming." So you might think, what is holding us back from doing all of this service? Have you ever thought someone else could do that? Or have you ever said, should I do that? Oh, I don't have time. I have this other thing going on. So throughout my life, I've thought about things personally and professionally, and there's another author that comes to mind, Tom Rainer. And he wrote a book, very short title, called I Will. And this book examines an attitude shift to I will. So in my opinion, this very small statement actually implies obedience. It's a call to put others first, a challenge to take responsibility for our actions, and a desire to take the initiative to act and serve, and what? Not wait for others to do so. So let's look more closely at this. So this could also be obedience in reference to that of God, community, family, and work. So being a change agent here in Hamilton often requires you to have obedience in various aspects of your life so that you can be blessings to others. And yes, it's a call to put others first, sometimes putting them before your comfort and needs to the point of what? Sacrificial giving and being selfless. That's that service above self. This is at times difficult, right? As so many things and people are competing for our attention. In addition, there are people at work, at home, or in our community that sometimes make it difficult to love them by their attitudes or actions. I have a 21-year-old and a 30-year-old, so I know about attitudes. So, however, the efforts of Rotarians and other like-minded groups and individuals provide encouragement for us to move forward despite the setbacks. It's kind of like a theater production. We all have parts or roles to play. Some of us are main characters, and others make brief cameo appearances. But we all are integral to pull off a standing ovation. So let's not be in the mindset of someone else will do that. You and I need to take responsibility to be problem solvers, coming together to make positive and lasting change in our communities. So in the present, how can we take the initiative to serve others in a mighty way, to give generously, not just of our finances, but of our time, of our talents, as well as making a difference in our local community and the world? So by responding to saying, I will, has a very deep meaning, and it's also very personal. So remember, you could say, I could, I might, I can, I should, I will. So how will you respond to the call of putting service above self? And so then you're thinking about, well, what is this legacy piece? How are we going to leave a legacy? I am so glad you asked that question. So the Hamilton Club desires to leave this legacy for leaders, and some attributes tend to resonate. And it comes from their mission statement. And it goes, to be the premier service organization in Hamilton. Thing 1. 2, to support significant community projects through funding and manpower. 3, to continue the emphasis on youth, education, and Rotary International projects. And lastly, to derive strength through membership involvement. So the Hamilton Club's perseverance and drive influence the sustainability of the club. The club's members, position themselves to be the examples of character, of faith, integrity, and courage through these 100 years. Therefore, people might categorize this club's leadership by the following anagram. So if you think of the word Hamilton, H would be for hardworking, putting the needs of others before your very own. A, action, people willing to make an impact. M, motivating, taking time to encourage and build others up. I, innovative, thinking outside the box to engage members. L, loving, showing others the love and the respect that you hope to receive. T, transform, create a change in the lives of children locally as well as globally. O, being optimistic, always believing that that glass is half full instead of empty, and that everything is an opportunity rather than a challenge. And then N, nurturing, providing support, love, and encouragement to others. Shannon Adler provides us with an inspiring quote: "Carve your name on hearts, not tombstones." So a legacy is etched into the minds of others and the stories they share about you. So today, we have seen and heard how the Hamilton Club has modeled the way for us to follow and leave a legacy. So leaving this great legacy is going to require us to support the people and causes that are important to all of us, reflect and decide what is most important in life, share your blessings with others, be a mentor, and pursue your passions, because what? Your passions are infectious. And with that, thank you so very much for your attention, and I wish you 100 more years as the Hamilton Rotary Club, setting the example for other Rotarians to follow. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. I would like to call Lisa back up here. So as district governor, we get all kinds of email and postal mail. So I received from the Rotary International headquarters a certificate to present to the Hamilton Club for 100 years of awesome service. Lisa?
We're getting all these things to fill up the Vista Room walls. It's part of our 100-year project, is getting some markers up there about the Hamilton Rotary Club. So now we're on to the future of the Hamilton Rotary Club. Thank you, Sigrid, for your remarks, and you lead us perfectly into our final comments for the evening. Woody Fitton has been a member of our club since 1986. His father, Vaden, was an active member from 1968 until 2016. Woody was our club president in 2010-2011 and has held a variety of club and committee leadership positions during his tenure. Please join me in welcoming a Rotarian with a vision for our future, Woody Fitton.
Well, good evening. If you've looked at your program, I'm the last one on the program, so I'm the only thing between Bill Hartford and bedtime. So I will do my best to keep my comments brief. But Sigrid, that was a very inspiring talk, and you've used a lot of the words I was thinking of for the future, so thank you. Teed it up very well. I would like to acknowledge our committee because we had an amazing presentation celebration today, very well thought out. And so if you are on the committee, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. They worked extremely hard. I know something of that, not because I helped, but because one of the committee members, Kim Monifo, I saw her running around like crazy with her hair on fire the last few months, and it really paid off because this was a great, great night. We had the opportunity to really celebrate and kind of reflect on our rich history, really amazing legacy. That was a word we heard a few minutes ago that has been left for us. You know, we have the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of many, many generations of great leaders. So what are we going to do with that, and what legacy are we going to leave? This club has had, you know, I've heard resistance to change sometimes in different settings, and I've heard, well, we always do it this way. We've always done it that way. That is not the case with this club. In the moment, you may think that is the case, but it's not. If you look back at the historical archive today, you'll see that we have regularly adapted to societal change and community need. Just reflecting on some of those, which I'll talk about in a minute, some of the archives upstairs. But so when we think about the future, it's kind of a scary proposition at times, but I believe it will be informed by the actions of our forefathers. What will the future look like? Lisa asked me to talk about that of this club. So I spent a lot of time contemplating, reflecting, and I have to tell you, I've got nothing. Got nothing. I couldn't find the crystal ball, but I have confidence that the future will be bright. And I'll tell you for a few minutes why. And I think, you know, if you've seen the movie Back to the Future, that's where we need to go to understand where we can go. This club, as I said, has continually responded and adapted to culture and societal changes. You saw the picture of Nate Sherman. Those of you who were alive back then, I want you to think about 1969. Maybe one of the most chaotic years in our history of this country. And yet this club had the courage to integrate its club that particular year. By the way, those of you who knew Nate Sherman, what a gem of a human being. It's a slam dunk to ask him to join this club. But it still took courage at that time. And 1988, when Nancy and Linda Beer were inducted as the first women in the club, that took courage. There was resistance. I remember it. You remember that, didn't you? Yes. There was resistance. But we had leadership to say, the time is right. It's actually past due. And one that we mentioned, Mary Pat Essman. Mary Pat's somewhere here, right? Over here. So Mary Pat was our first female president, and we had a habit before she came in of meetings going over about 10, 15 minutes, which was very irritating to a young Turk like me who had to, I was on the clock, and if I came in that late, people raised their eyebrows, and so I'd be squirming in my seat, hoping for this program, but it always got started like at 10 till 1 and went over to 10 after. Well, that all changed when Mary Pat became president. And by God, at 1 o'clock, that program was over. She had to pull the power on the, and she was beloved by our club after that. And I think we realized, what have we been waiting for to have a female president? And one that wasn't, I don't believe, up there, unless I missed it. Who remembers the Rotary swim team? I'm sure some do. I think it was 60s, 70s. Would that be right, Joe? Okay. How I knew about the Rotary swim team was I competed against them when I was on the New London Hills swim team. Now, so I was pretty good too, by the way. But what was interesting is the kids that were on the Rotary swim team came from families that did not have the resources to join a country club or a swim club. They lived came from very modest means. But the Rotary Club decided they have a right and we have an obligation to allow them to compete. And they practiced and held their meets in the North End pool. And I remember that distinctly going there. It was wild, those meets there. But I had no idea of any of that. I just knew they were a bunch of tough competitors. And these are the kind of things that the Rotary has historically done. Science fair, stepping in with people like Jay Antonin. He dedicated so many years to that, to teach kids a love of science. So we have had a rich history of responding and adapting and changing. Now, we have to continue that as we go forward. And if we want to build on the legacy, if we want to remain relevant, we have to be prepared to maybe get uncomfortable. But I personally believe it's time for us to be prepared to make way for the next generation of leaders and allow them the opportunity to do what prior leaders have done. And it's going to require an openness, a level of flexibility, and being adaptable to change, willing to listen, and support the changes in the movement that occur. It may make people uncomfortable, but change requires a little bit of being uncomfortable. That's the first step toward growth. So we've already started down this path, which I think most of you know. It was earlier, maybe the end of last year, beginning of this year, we formed a committee to look toward the future of Rotary. And Sigrid, I would assume, because you travel around our district, there are a lot of white-haired men, particularly, that populate most of the clubs. I've got mine is getting close. And that's a scary proposition because if they're not balanced, they're going to be in trouble. They won't, and obviously, we've recognized that for years. I mean, we've been focusing on bringing in the new crop of leaders for years, but this year we put a very concerted effort. And one of the things we did, and many of you know this, but we decided, our committee decided we need to really understand how this next generation thinks and not make assumptions, because that's what is dangerous when you make a bunch of assumptions. And so we had focus groups that Lisa Sandlin facilitated. We had surveys. We got a lot of valuable feedback. Some of the feedback we heard, we want to be very hands-on with service projects. These are younger millennials and Gen Xers that mainly were giving us this feedback. We've lately been more aligned with raising money and having the funds dispersed to organizations to provide that service. That's fine. They want to continue that, but they want to have the opportunity to actually hands-on serve their community. That is part of what the makeup of these new generations. They're interested in changing the way we meet. So we've been hearing this for years. A Thursday lunch every week is probably not going to work long-term for that generation. And it's going to make many of us who've been in the club a long time a little uncomfortable if we change some of that up. But we have to start thinking about being prepared. If we want to leave a legacy for the future, and that years from now people will gather to celebrate the continued future of this great organization, we have to be willing to think about how we change and adapt like our forefathers did. One of the ideas was, why can't we periodically have a social meeting in the evening? It works better for some, and we build fellowship, we build relationships. Speaking of which, those who stood up as presidents know this. when you're standing up here looking out at the club on a given week, I know exactly where everybody is when in 2010 and 11. They sit in the same pew. And Pastor John, you know this. I've said pew, seat. You know this because every Sunday you know exactly who is or isn't there by the pews either empty or full. And I get it. That's human nature. That's comfort level. We all do that. We glom in a safe group. But I know Dave Mancuso, I think he's here, but several of us over the years, Jason, we would beat this drum and say, move around, meet some new people. Didn't work. So to Lisa's credit, she had the courage to implement some of these recommendations, one of which was we call it mix and mingle. Every once in a while we have a meeting, you get a random number drawn, and that's the table you sit at. And you get an opportunity to actually meet some of your fellow club members. We had somebody at the first one, a couple people who'd been in the club over 20 years, the first time they'd really met. Now think about that. 20 years coming at the same Thursday every week, they didn't know each other. Crazy, isn't it? So this is the kind of thing that this young group has inspired in terms of saying, and here's how really it was driven. I heard from several new members said, I never felt welcome when I joined this club because I would sit at a table and I would either be given dirty looks or directly asked, why are you sitting here? And one of the ladies who told me, I haven't seen her much since. So we cannot allow that to happen. We've got to welcome and embrace these younger people. Now, I'm excited because I look out at our club now, and we have a lot of very energetic, active young members now who are poised to seize the baton. And I'll just say this. They're willing to be patient for a while, but not forever. And many of them have joined our club with the hope that we will, in fact, be willing to adapt and embrace some of their ideas. So it is important that we do that. One final one, and I love the fact you meant mentoring. One of the pieces of feedback we've received is they would love to have the opportunity to have a mentor. Now, what better group than our club to provide mentoring service? We have such a distinguished group of members. So, you know, my dad used to always say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Who wouldn't want to be mentored by Dick Underwood, who, by the way, thanks for the food tonight, guys. It was awesome. Dick is 90 years young. He's an amazing person, probably a who's who. And why wouldn't some young person want to have an opportunity to pick his brain? This is a great idea, and it's on the horizon, right, Lisa? So do I know exactly what the future will hold? Of course not. I'm not a soothsayer, but I'm convinced we will have a bright future if we build on the legacy of our forefathers and we respond as they have done to changes in our society and our community's needs, and we remain open to that change. Because, by the way, that's what will make this exciting. You know, that the youth and vigor that these people, young leaders, will bring to our club are going to provide a level of energy that we only could dream of at this point. So I believe it's going to be a very exciting time. And I don't know about you, but I'm very much ready to get started on this next chapter of our history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Woody. So just to wrap up for the evening, we are very grateful for our generous sponsors who are listed on the back of your program. Their generosity assisted with this evening, but also with additional anniversary projects benefiting our community over the coming months. It's important to note that 60 of our current Rotarians contributed financially towards our 100th anniversary fundraising effort, including 22 past presidents who collectively gave more than $23,000. Thank you all to everyone for their sponsorship and generosity. I'm glad that Woody had our anniversary committee members stand up. I do want to provide you with their names. I did go ahead and list those for us this evening so that we could recognize them. Joe Ballou, Rich Bethart, Jeff Boyle, Jason Crank, Kurt Ellison, Paul Golias, Karen Underwood Kramer, Laura Levitt, Elisa Miller, Kim Munifo, and Lisa Sandlin. Thank you for this amazing, amazing event. Big shout out to the Fitton Center staff for hosting us this evening and all their efforts to make this a memorable occasion. Thank you, Ian and staff. And most certainly, we really appreciate that all of you joined us for our time together. And we hope that you had an opportunity to not only spend time with each other, but enjoy a walk through time with us. We have commemorative gifts in the lobby as you leave this evening if you haven't picked one up. The unique ceramic coasters are provided by Easter Seal sponsorship, and they were created by artists at Inside Out Studio. Also, the Rotary Wheel cookies were created by Kelly's Bakery. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Someone's giving me a point. What? Did I say something wrong? Oh, okay. I was trying to get through this without making a mistake, Kim Munifo. All right, well, I might have to beg forgiveness for something, but I can do that. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. And now I'm going to ring the bell, so just not to shock you, that means that we are adjourned.